reporters don't understand why the school is all black, but the school across the street, which is the white academy, is all white. They said, how come the school? And then they went downtown and they saw white and colored swimming pools. And they said, how can this be? This is the 90s. I said, y'all ought to get around in these little towns down there. And the bank we went to where blacks could deposit money, but they couldn't work in the bank except to mop the floors, even though their money was the money in the black belt that was in the bank. So that it became the story of the people as well as the story of the commission and what it did in the struggle for freedom. Now, I think there should be a new civil and human rights commission, because as I said, it can help us to solve these problems and go back to the way things were now, way the commission was before. Now, some people think we're in post-racial America or whatever.
Yeah.
And I always say, if you're going to be post-racial, you first have to be anti-racist. And as what did Joe Lowry say about black get back, white, what does he say, yellow you're mellow, brown stay around, whatever. You have to start doing the right thing. And not everybody, unfortunately, is doing the right thing. Some people think that Obama being elected is a time to celebrate only, and we've been celebrating, and that everything trouble's over. And other people think that it's a time to inspire us to move on and complete the unfinished business of our country. I happen to think it's the second thing, but it won't happen unless we make it happen, and we ought to try to make it happen. And that's this book, I think, I hope this book in its explanation will help us to do whatever is necessary so that we will truly have liberty and justice for all in our country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if anyone would like to ask a question, or if you just like to get up and testify. I mean, like in church, you know. In my church, we say, I just want to testify. Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about. We get up and testify. Testimonials. Or if you always just want to get up and talk in front of some people, then go right ahead. Anybody have anything? Yes.
Is there a chance that the commission will get changed? Is there somebody pushing this so that it will get reappointed in a different way?
I've been told by the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, which is the big group that has all the civil rights and civil liberties organizations in it in Washington, that they recommended that to the transition, Obama transition people, and that they seem to be receptive. Now, as to when it will happen, I don't know, but it seems to be logical that they would accept it. I think it should be a civil and human rights commission. I discussed it in the book at the end, and that it should have, because see, we know that there's a nexus between race, gender, and so on, and economics. And so we need to consider fully human rights in its larger context. And also it should have an international dimension so that it has some intervention in terms of the covenants that the United States has signed, all the UN covenants, and the ones we haven't signed, and whether we implement them or don't implement them. And just as we give a scorecard every year, or a report on other countries in the world and how well they're doing on human rights, maybe we can do one ourselves.
Absolutely.
John Shattuck, who's over at the JFK Library, and he was Assistant Secretary for Human Rights in the Clinton administration, once said to me that he thought the commission, somebody needed to do such a study. So I'm hopeful that it will happen. I think it's not going to happen right now, but I'm hopeful it will happen. The main thing I'm hopeful about, if it happens, is that somebody will again start listening to people and start making recommendations about the real problems that people have. Okay? Yes, Tim.
You mentioned Holder's comments from yesterday. I was wondering kind of what, I'm already, just listening to local news, I'm already hearing an adverse reaction to what he said, even though you seem to like what he said. I liked what he said. Just kind of how that might play out.
What's the adverse reaction?
Comments like, if this is the person that Obama's putting in, that we have to, they're reacting to the statement about a nation of cowards.
Yeah, the coward.
They're really reacting to that in kind of a visceral, kind of gut way rather than thinking about what he actually said. And thinking that if he's going to say that, then is he someone who's going to bring people together or someone who's not? But as I said, listen to the whole comment and kind of get where he's coming from.
Well, I expected there would be criticism. I expected there would be criticism, which is why I called him up to say it was a gutsy thing to do. From people who really, if you look at the people who criticize, they probably haven't been doing a whole lot to try to solve all these problems anyway over the years. I mean, they aren't activists in the human rights struggle or civil rights struggle. By and large, I don't think they would be. But I think he's right that we are a nation of cowards. I mean, it's correct. If we think about ourselves, we walk right up to issues and then we don't really, deal with them. And what he's saying is, instead of just let's make this time a time when we just deal with it. Let's just go and deal with it. It is cowardly not to deal with something that you ought to be dealing with. Now, maybe he could have used some other word or maybe he could have muted what he said. I sometimes think, you don't always think of the words you're saying, because in the book, I refer to a woman who told a lie, an egregious lie, which I document about the staff at the commission, pretending like they hadn't done something that they'd actually done for political reasons. I referred to her as having told a lie. But I'm thinking that maybe what I should have said was she misspoke, or she, but basically she lied. So basically, and I wasn't thinking, so I wrote that she lied because she lied. but maybe he wasn't thinking that there'd be somebody who would be upset at him calling them, cowards, and but there are people who are cowards. So I don't know, Tim, maybe we'll get over it, but I will respect that if it comes from somebody who has been working on these problems and issues and who feels like it interferes with their ability to do whatever it is they're trying to do, then I would accept it and admonish him to use other language. Yes.
We all heard about the New York Post cartoon yesterday. I just can't believe their arrogance and their response to that. And I just wondered.
I haven't heard the response. What did they say?
Well, they basically said it wasn't racist. They said that it could have been someone else who was connected with the stimulus package. They connected the chimpanzee who was shot because he went wild and killed a woman or injured the woman. They connected that with the stimulus package. And the cartoon, of course, showed two white police officers with smoking guns and the chimps laying on the ground with bullet holes. And the caption was, I guess now they'll have to get someone else to write the next stimulus package. And, the commentary that I heard about it suggested that, when you have those type of cartoons that try to connect something that happened that day with something else, that there really is some connection, but there's basically no connection between what happened to this chimpanzee and the stimulus package. So I just find it incredulous that a newspaper feels that they can not even say, well, gee, we're sorry, we didn't mean to offend, but we're really sorry we offended folks with this cartoon, and they just refuse to even admit any wrongdoing there.
Would you put it in the same category as the newspapers that said negative things about the Prophet Muhammad and got into trouble over that all over Europe? It happened, protests and everything else, because people said,
It was a cartoon too.
Yes, it was a cartoon, and the Muslims in those cases said that you shouldn't even touch that, and there was no reason for you to even do that, and in the environment in which we live after 9/11 and all the rest of it, you shouldn't be doing that. And what happened in that case was, I think almost unanimously, civil libertarians and newspapers in this country defended the right of them to have those cartoons. Am I mistaken? I think that's what happened. Yeah.